Hey Steve, why don't you make a video about that team that blew a third period lead in an important playoff game in TD Garden? Don't mind if I do! Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Steve's Dangits, where we go through the biggest bloopers in NHL history, and this one's one of my favorites. Only because it reminds me that fans of other teams feel pain too. Now before you fill your diaper, I want to point out that we have already made a Dangits video for the Leafs 4-1 collapse against Boston in TD Garden, so calm down. But this one, ooh, it's pretty good. 2 goals in 17 seconds. It's funny to look back on the Stanley Cup Final between the Boston Bruins and the Chicago Blackhawks from 2013 because we're heading into a weird time in hockey right now in 2020. With the 48-game season, oh, it's not a real season, oh, it's not a real cup. I mean, one of the things they always say about the Leafs making the playoffs that year is they wouldn't have made it if it was a full 82-game season, and I'm not gonna lie, you're probably right. But when it got to the Final Four, it was obvious there were no pretenders. The Blackhawks versus the Kings in the West. The Bruins versus the Penguins in the East. The last 4 cup winners were the Final Four in 2013. In the 48-game lockout-shortened season, the Boston Bruins were 28-14-6, with the third best goals against in the entire NHL. In the first 24 games of the 48-game season, so halfway through the season, the Chicago Blackhawks had not lost a game in regulation yet. They were 21-0-3, their only 3 losses coming in the shootout. Then they lost back-to-back games against Colorado and Edmonton because hockey laughs at you. But their final record in 2013 was 36-7-5. They had the second best offense in the entire NHL, and remember how I said the Bruins had the third best goals against? Yeah, the Blackhawks had the first. Both teams meet in the Stanley Cup Final, and it's a slobber knocker. Game 1, Milan Lucic puts the Bruins up 2-0. They had a 3-1 lead as well. Chicago ties it before the third period, and we head to overtime, and second overtime, and third overtime, where Andrew Shaw wins it in triple overtime. 1-0 Blackhawks.
By Kelly. Then it's Shaw. More banging in the boards, and it's squibbed on back to Roosevelt. Roosevelt a shot.
Game 2, Patrick Sharp for the Blackhawks, Chris Kelly for the Bruins. No goals in the third, and we head to overtime again, where Danny Paille ties the series up for the Bruins.
Aaron's the blast, blocked right back out in front by Crawford for the take by Seabrook. Scaled along to Bowling off his stick. Turned right back over again and led on out for someone. Paille! He scores! Paille! And the Bruins have won it in overtime.
Game 3, Paille would open the scoring there. Patrice Bergeron would score as well. And Tuukka Rask would pull off a 28-save shutout. Boston leads the 2013 Stanley Cup Final 2-1. Game 4, the Blackhawks blow a 3-1 lead, a 4-2 lead, and a 5-4 lead to go to overtime, but Brent Seabrook saves their bacon with the OT winner there, all tied up again, 2-2.
Bickle tries to play, and that one is blocked by Bergeron. Kept along by Seabrook's right. Score! The Blackhawks have won it!
Game 5 in Chicago. Blackhawks up 2-0. Zdeno Chara gives them a scare in the third, but Corey Crawford holds the fort. Dave Bolin with the empty netter, and we head to a potential elimination game in Boston for Game 6, where it's all very simple. The Bruins win, there's a Game 7 in Chicago. The Blackhawks win, they win their 3rd Stanley Cup in 6 years. First period, Chris Kelly scores his second of the playoffs. TD Garden goes nuts. 1-0 Boston after 1. Second period, Jonathan Toews, Blackhawks captain, scores his 3rd of the playoffs. 3rd, can you believe it? And it's a tied game heading into the 3rd. Awesome. With about 8 minutes to go in the 3rd, Milan Lucic puts the Bruins up 1 with his 7th of the playoffs. Dude, people clown on contracts and stuff now. People forget how dominant Lucic was for a while. And who knows, he might be the first guy to ever win the Conn Smythe in like August. And now the Blackhawks are looking for a goal, looking for it, and they can't find it. 90 seconds to go in regulation. Corey Crawford is still in the Chicago Blackhawks net. A couple seconds later, he takes off for the Blackhawks bench, and pandemonium. With the extra attacker out, the Blackhawks use that to their advantage. Duncan Keith goes for a little pinch. Blackhawks come out with the puck, Duncan Keith specifically, and he gives it to Jonathan Toews, who is snuck behind Dennis Seidenberg. Now he's alone in the corner, and the Blackhawks have a couple options in front. The Bruins have two guys too, Zdeno Chara, I don't know, you might have heard of him, and also Milan Lucic. Lucic is kind of high. Michael Handzus is Toews' one option, a little closer, and Brian Bickle is in a juicy spot right in front of the net. If Toews can just get the pass through Chara, this is a goal. And what a pass it was. With a minute and 16 seconds to go in the game, it is tied. Corey Crawford was barely on the bench for 10 seconds. The Chicago Blackhawks have forced overtime, or so we thought. Very next shift, the Boston Bruins win the faceoff, but they give it up to the Blackhawks on the right boards. Nicholas Hjalmarsson, the left-hand shot, receives it on his backhand and just sort of chucks it into the neutral zone. He flips it into a crowd. The Blackhawks come up with it and they attack with 3 men. Michael Frolik shot, stopped by Rask. It's cool. The Bruins got numbers back. Keep cool, baby. With the shot redirected along the half wall, Marcus Kruger picks it up, flips it behind him to Johnny Oduya at the point. Oduya puts it on. Frolik tip. Oh, off the post! And what a moment that could have been. What a haunting moment that could have been for the Chicago Blackhawks. If they don't bury that, the Bruins force Game 7. The Bruins win on Chicago's home ice. But that didn't happen, did it? The rebound is there. 2 Bruins are there. Tuukka Rask is there. But none of them beat Dave Bolland to the puck.
Another tight game. Goaltender was out for the extra attacker. Duncan Keith given the second assist. Bolland back in. Frolik shot off speed, stopped by Rask. Here's a chance for a tip. Bolland scores! Dave Bolland has given the Blackhawks the lead with 59 seconds to go. Seconds after the goal by Brian Bickle to tie it up, Dave Bolland has given the Blackhawks a 3-2 lead, and they're less than a minute away from the Stanley Cup.
And the magic of round 1, Game 7 against the Maple Leafs, disappears in those 17 seconds. Amazing, just shot to the net, a deflection out high, and you can see Bolland got himself caught. I don't know whether he thought it was overtime throwing his gloves down, but he got behind the defense, kept it alive. And it's the high deflection right there that causes the play to be missed by Rask. Timeout Boston for that reason. Johnny Boychuk just on the wrong side of the puck. Puck watching.
How must that feel to see your boy score a big goal like that? And your team looking like they were headed for Game 7, all of a sudden less than a minute away from a cup presentation.
And you watch the high deflection is what gives Tuukka Rask the trouble.
Gloves go flying like confetti. The building goes silent except for the gasps of horror. And now with less than a minute to go, the Blackhawks have 2 goals in 17 seconds and are less than a minute away from a Stanley Cup. The Bruins use their timeout. It doesn't work, and the Chicago Blackhawks hoist the Stanley Cup in Boston. Now, this is the thing with Dangits. I call them blooper videos because that's the easy thing to do, the lazy thing to do, frankly. If you've been watching for long enough, you know that's not the case. I don't really think the Bruins did anything wrong. I mean, they were playing the Chicago Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Final. They got heated. A dang it is simply something that makes you go, dang it. And what do you think every Boston Bruins fan in TD Garden said that night? It's probably worse than dang it. But if your team allows 2 goals in 17 seconds in the final minute of what would be the end of your season, yeah, I think you can call that a dang it. And all over Chicago, the Fratellis are like, oh, give me that royalties check. They wrote the song, you see. And the Chicago Blackhawks, after their Stanley Cup win in 2010, they have a matching one in 2013. For the Bruins, there's no shame in losing the way that they did. There's no shame. but it is a dang it. So, what'd you think of this dang it video? I assume this will get less views than the 4-1 comeback. I recently discovered that out of the top 25 most viewed videos on my own YouTube channel, only one of them is about a Leaf win, so I think you just enjoy my misery. The dang it video about the 4-1 comeback has a lot more misery in it than this one, but I do hope you enjoyed this one, and that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video, click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. If you're gonna score a goal in the final minute and toss your gloves, oh man, you better lock it down and win the game. Imagine if they didn't. We'll never know.